The threat has now become a reality. Here we go. How do you
Yeah,
feel?
here we go.
What is this moment for you?
It's absolutely stunning. I think all I can say is almost everybody I've spoken with in the United States and in Mexico cannot believe that this is the level at which the entree of these tariffs is commencing. I think many had expected that it would have been much more targeted, perhaps very specific to things like steel and copper and aluminum, things that had happened before. Because, the backdrop of all of this, Heather, is frankly less about us and much more about what's going on in America right now. This is an executive branch that some will say has overreached its powers on the tariffs and the trade question. Now, the question will be, will Congress do anything about it? And obviously, he's speaking today at the State of the Union. We'll see whether that comes up or not.
One of the things I'm going to talk with a trade lawyer about, too, in terms of overreach. But you're right. We'll be listening very closely and expect some of the message tonight to be specifically addressing the tariff issue. I'm just wondering, do you think, once the talk of tariffs began, Canada mobilized very aggressively, but we heard yesterday from the U.S. president, no room left for Canada. Was there anything Canada could have done to avoid this outcome, or really was it preordained?
It sure seems like it was preordained. I do think everybody benefited from the effort on the border. It's in our own national interest to ensure that our border is controlling who's coming in and what's coming in. So that's not necessarily something that we can say was a downside of this. It's an upside of this. But what it showed was that was never really what it was all about. There is an issue here. The president is not mincing his words when he's saying, if you want to avoid the tariffs, move your business, move your money, move yourself to America. And this is not the way you go about, strengthening the neighborhood of North America. I think the Mexicans are going to respond in kind, as the Canadians are going to do today. And what that's going to ultimately mean is inflation is going to return to North America. People are going to spend more for things. Unemployment is going to increase. The pain that is going to be felt is actually going to be felt in many ways by the very people whom the president had assured that under his presidency, the cost of living and the affordability issues that people are facing would be improved. This is not going to happen. And so I suspect what we need to do now, Heather, is allow that pain to work its way through the system. Hopefully it's short-lived and, rational behavior returns, where we're not imposing tariffs on each other, instead working on strengthening the agreement we already have, which has been working very well for all three countries. But frankly, in particular, it's been working very well for America.
So you get a sense, though, of what Canada is up against. As you said, part of the argument from Donald Trump is he wants manufacturing jobs. He wants production to be based in the United States again. And he's already announced a $100 billion investment by Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing. Apple's announced an investment of $500 billion over 4 years. He's getting what he wants in terms of reshoring.
Well, that's certainly the early indications. But I will tell you, I was just at the global mining conference here in Toronto, and a lot of people from a lot of different countries are here. And part of the messaging that's coming out of there is that America is actually, creating its own unpredictable and uncertain investment climate in its own country with these actions. Because if an agreement that you made with your two neighbors that you had a long history with having trade agreements is null and void, literally overnight, what other assurances are you making to other businesses and others who are looking at America as an opportunity, saying, well, can I trust them? So this is an issue that I think is going to come back and affect the attitude of capital, because again, capital will go to where it's welcome. This is not welcoming. This is more coercion than it is welcoming.
Okay. So in terms of Canada's response, we're going to hear more from the Prime Minister at 10:30 this morning, but we know already the retaliatory tariffs are in place. The first group of those, the $30 billion, and then another 125 to come in 3 weeks. I'm wondering where you fall on the counter-retaliation strategy, and if there's any more Canada should do and the provinces should do as they look to be joining in as well.
Well, look, it is a really difficult time when you have to impose counter tariffs, because what you know about those counter tariffs is ultimately they're going to be paid by Canadians now.
Right.
But you have no choice. This is a scenario where if someone's punching you in the face, you're going to have to punch back. And that's what these counter tariffs are. I think the government has worked to try and find a way in which to minimize the harm on Canadians and maximize the pain, unfortunately, on Americans, to get them to speak up and speak out to their governors and their congressmen and women and senators and ultimately the president's administration to say, what are you doing? This is not making life more affordable to me. The fact that they put tariffs on energy, something that we know about Americans is they're extremely price sensitive at the pump. Well, they're going to feel the impact of that. I hope they filled up because they're going to feel the impact of that pretty quickly. But on our side, you said, what else can we do? I think the tariffs are designed, as I said, to minimize harm on Canadians, maximize them on Americans. But let's be honest, we're all going to pay more for things. And that's going to cause a problem when we're already having a fragile economy, which means we need to use this as a wake-up call. We need to use this as an opportunity to bring down those interprovincial trade barriers where a lot of growth is trapped inside those. I'm very optimistic that the efforts of Minister Anand and the premiers and the trade ministers of our country will help bring those things down, which, by the way, are a tariff put on Canadians by Canadians. So if we're really upset about what Donald Trump is doing to us, we should be even more upset about what we're doing to ourselves and do something about that.
So can I just jump in on that, just because I think you'll want to expand, but you're speaking exactly to what some of our viewers are already saying this morning. We're opening up our program, Goldy, and Morning Live at CBC.ca for questions and comments, and they're right very much in keeping with you just mentioned. For example, Claude Caravielli, do you believe that this is possibly a wake-up call for Canada to start trading with the rest of the world? And Verda Baron, Trump tariffs could be a positive thing for Canada. They're forcing our own country to focus on building our own country again, talking about, yes, the tough times potentially, but we've been ignoring promoting our country for a generation. Governments, federal and provincial, must stop the divisiveness and work together. So again, that's just from two of our viewers, very much in keeping with the last statement, and probably you would say hear to what they're suggesting.
Well, let me say I'm proud of my country, and I'm particularly proud of Canadians. This is exactly the kind of response that we need to have, which is to not kowtow, not fear, not panic. We need to stay calm. We need to stay focused on the things that we control. We're a country that has 15 trade agreements. It's not like we have just one. We have 15 of them that capture 51 countries. Canadians, whether you're in the small business, large business, labor unions, Indigenous groups, and governments, need to work together to develop the trade arteries that we've really created only north-south. And that's to our own detriment, and today's proof of that. We need to diversify. We have trade agreements with Europe. We have trade agreements with many countries in the Indo-Pacific. Let's make sure we get our products out to market to them. The truth is, when I see the Americans and this talk about the 51st state and all that, I go, you know what? It's good to be wanted, because what you're telling us is we have what you want, which means others want it too. So they want our potash, they want our uranium, they want our energy, they want the critical minerals that we have. And so let's leverage that, play to our strengths, and move quickly. This is the thing about Canada. If there's one thing that's keeping me up is, will we respond to this moment? Will we rise to this occasion with ambition and urgency matched by actions? It's not good enough to feel like you should do something. We actually need to do it. We're heading into a federal election most likely here. And I hope Canadians take the time at their door to not just talk about the small issues in front of them, but the big issues in front of our country, so that our political leaders understand that they have the support of Canadians to do the very things that we just spoke about.
And you put out a strategic action plan as you see it, which I'd love to have you back and talk about on another occasion, some of your strategies for the future, but I definitely wanted to get your immediate reaction now that the tariffs are here. So Goldy Hyder, as always, thank you very much for your insight and for your perspective. Really appreciate it.